Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful for You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the sprawling, floral-drenched gardens behind Brooke Logan's estate, where Hope Logan and Liam Spencer's long-awaited reunion wedding was meant to represent healing, destiny, and the final end to their years of heartbreak, tension simmered beneath the surface like an electrical charge waiting to explode. And everything began unraveling the moment Beth Spencer, anxious, overwhelmed, and desperate to please her mom, made the one catastrophic decision that would turn the everyone had noticed. Beth's nerves during the rehearsal, the way she hovered too close to the bouquets, the rings, the carefully timed music cues, and how she appeared terrified of doing anything wrong after Hope gently reminded her that this was Mommy and Daddy's special day, a phrase that echoed through the little girl's head with mounting pressure. So when she overheard Deacon, Ridge, and Carter discussing the delivery mix-up concerning the sentimental unity box intended for the ceremony, a box holding letters Hope and Liam wrote years ago, Beth realized she might assist. In her innocent attempt to fix the problem before anyone noticed, Beth wandered into the room where not just one but three identical boxes had been placed by mistake, unaware that one contained Ridge's confidential legal files for Forrester, and the other, sealed, unmarked, and tragically out of place, contained Douglas's old tablet holding his unreleased video files, including one he had filmed months ago of Liam venting angrily about Hope, confessing fears about her panic crept in, but Beth made a guess, grabbed the wrong box, and triumphantly delivered it to Carter, who, distracted by last-minute calls, thanked her without inspecting inside, sending the entire wedding on a collision course with disaster. As guests took their seats, Steffi Forrester exchanged uneasy eye contact with Hope, already anxious that the couple was rushing back into marriage, while Thomas remained distant, trying not to meddle but unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. When the music grew louder and Beth walked down the aisle, everyone smiled, unaware that the unity box she carried would detonate the wedding like a bomb. Hope and Liam exchanged heartfelt but delicate vows, as if both were desperately seeking a second opportunity that fate appeared hesitant to offer. Then Carter asked Beth to bring forward the symbolic box containing the emotional heart of the ritual. Hope and Liam opened it jointly, expecting to see their letters, but instead they stopped as the tablet inside turned on automatically, its battery still charged, and the screen projected a video onto the white flowery arch behind them. Gasps rang through the audience as Douglas' recording began to play, grainy footage of Liam pacing in the cabin months earlier, ranting in emotional exhaustion, saying he wasn't sure Hope was truly over Thomas, admitting that he sometimes felt second to her career, and, worst of all, confessing he might marry her again because he was afraid of losing Beth, not because this marriage is what I want right now. Hope's world collapsed in an instant, her bouquet dropped from her grasp, roses scattering like symbols of broken aspirations. Liam stood immobilized, unable to speak, while the guests looked at him in startled silence. Beth broke into tears, bewildered and afraid, believing she had ruined everything, which she had, but not purposefully. Brooke hurried to protect her granddaughter, while Steffi gazed at Liam with a face that indicated she had heard all and had always known his skepticism. Hope demanded to know when Liam said those things, why he concealed them, and how he could stand here reciting vows while being uncertain about their future. Liam attempted to explain that it was a moment of weakness months ago, a private spiral he never intended to reveal, but the damage had been done, and the timing, seconds after they exchanged vows, made it inexcusable. Hope's sadness became to rage, and her voice trembled as she declared that she would not enter another marriage based on lies and fear. Ridge demanded Carter turn down the projection, while Deacon tried to console Hope, and Bill Spencer stood up angrily, accusing Ridge and the Forresters of spoiling the wedding. Thomas, unable to hold back any longer, ran to Beth first, soothing her as she cried apologies, before turning to Hope with an intensity that shocked Liam. In the midst of the chaos, Beth clutched Hope's dress, crying that she only wanted to help, and Hope, torn between heartbreak and maternal instinct, gathered her daughter in her arms, realizing the true tragedy. Beth had been caught in the crossfire of adult secrets, lies, and unresolved issues that should never have been anywhere near a child. The ceremony formally ended when Hope removed her wedding ring and pressed it into Liam's palm with a quivering hand, saying she sought honesty, not comfort, nostalgia, or the illusion of family unity used to conceal deeper cracks. "If we get married again," she said quietly, "it can't be because you're afraid of losing your daughter. It must be because you chose me. And right now, I'm not sure if you do." Liam cried down in front of everyone, but Hope walked away with Beth, leaving the guests dumbfounded and the wedding in ruins. As Hope disappeared into the garden with her daughter, Liam sank to his knees, realizing that Beth's innocent mistake had only revealed the truth. Their marriage was not ready, their wounds were not healed, and sometimes the truth comes out in the harshest, most unforgiving ways possible, and, in true bold and the beautiful fashion, the fallout from this disaster would reverberate through every family, rivalry, and storyline for months to come. Hope didn't stop walking until she reached the far edge of Brooke's property, where rose-covered trellises led to a quiet clearing overlooking the hills, and there, with Beth trembling in her arms, she finally allowed herself to breathe, only for the breath to break into sobs she couldn't hold back any longer. Beth, devastated and perplexed, kept repeating that she wanted the right box, her small voice cracking under the weight of guilt far too heavy for a child, and Hope realized this moment was more than just the ruined wedding. It was a brutal reminder of the chaos her relationship with Liam had exposed their daughter to. She crouched down, taking Beth's face in her hands, and told her repeatedly that none of this was her fault, that the issues were created by adults, not her. Even Hope's reassurances were strained because deep inside, pain raged like a hurricane tearing at her chest, threatening to collapse her from within. Meanwhile, back at the ceremony site, the fallout intensified as Liam struggled to his feet, wanting to pursue Hope, but Steffi stopped him with a new, intense protectiveness that surprised even Ridge. She told him straight out that he didn't get to follow Hope this time, that he needed to accept the truth that his hesitation, not Beth's innocent error, triggered the wedding. Bill Spencer immediately jumped to Liam's defense, accusing Steffi of bias and still resenting Hope and Liam's reunions, but Steffi countered that this wasn't about old triangles. It was about Liam using marriage as emotional security and dragging children into the consequences of his indecision. Her remark struck Liam like a ton of bricks, especially when she added that she knew what it was like to marry out of fear, because she had almost done it herself with Finn after Sheila reappeared. Ridge attempted to intervene, but the dispute had already escalated into a full-blown confrontation. Inside the main house, Brooke was frantic, storming through the halls trying to manage guests, comm reporters, Consul Douglas, who felt responsible for the video despite having no idea how it resurfaced, and keep Deacon from exploding at Ridge for allowing sensitive Forrester files to become mixed up with the wedding items. The tension was so strong that the mansion vibrated with it. Carter was horrified, realizing he had signed off on the Unity box without checking it, blaming himself for the procedural error, but Ridge screamed that the Spencer men would use this debacle against Forrester Creations, which only exacerbated Bill's rage when he overheard it. Meanwhile, Thomas sneaked outside unobserved, finding Hope and Beth by the trellis. He stood back for a minute, watching Hope try to hold herself together while comforting her daughter. It soothed something deep within him, an ache he thought he had buried. He approached them softly, speaking to Beth first, reminding her that she had done nothing wrong and that adults frequently complicate life in ways that children do not comprehend. Hope, her voice rough from crying, thanked him, stating she lacked the fortitude to cope with Liam just now and couldn't stand returning to the mayhem inside. Thomas offered to take Beth back to the home to protect her from the shouting, and after much deliberation, Hope accepted, smoothing Beth's hair back and kissing her forehead before allowing Thomas to lift her up. As he dragged Beth away, Hope collapsed to the grass, embracing her knees, finally allowing the tidal wave of betrayal to wash over her. Liam discovered Hope minutes later, ignoring Steffi's protests and Bill's attempt to follow. His voice cracked as he begged her to listen, saying that the film depicted a time months ago when everything was falling apart, when he still believed she had unresolved feelings for Thomas, when he feared losing their family again, and when he was drowning in fury and anxiety. Hope glanced at him, her eyes lifeless, asking the inquiry that revealed the truth, "Then why didn't you delete it? If it didn't mean anything anymore, why didn't you delete it?" Liam became silent because they both knew the answer. He kept that recording because doubt lingered, because somewhere deep inside, he hadn't made peace with the past, and he hadn't entirely trusted they were stable enough to rebuild their marriage on firm foundation. Hope shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks, and expressed her inability to walk down the aisle again due to half-healed wounds and hidden fears. She needed a certain mate, not someone who entered marriage to avoid grief rather than choosing love. Liam slumped alongside her, weeping openly, claiming he loved her and had always loved her, but Hope warned him that loving someone was insufficient if he did not believe in their future. As Hope and Liam unwound in the garden, a new storm raged within the mansion. Bill requested that Douglas be questioned about how the tape reappeared, but Ridge refused, incensed that Bill would interrogate a child already destroyed with his lies, and Liam, his voice finally breaking free, shouted that it wasn't that simple, that he hadn't meant for things to escalate, that he had been trying to protect everyone, but Steffi screamed back that he had protected no one, that he had only protected himself, that he had played God with Luna's fate and Finn's life and Hope's future, and the room erupted into layers of chaos, Ridge yelling over Brooke, Deacon pleading with Sheila, Carter trying to restore order. Finn shaking with devastation, Steffi trembling with rage, Hope feeling the ground fall away beneath her feet, as Sheila stood her ground, still holding the evidence that proved Liam Spencer's greatest betrayal wasn't infidelity or emotional manipulation, but silence, cowardice, and a selfish decision that changed the course of multiple lives. As the shouting elongated into a storm vibrating off the walls of the wedding venue, Hope swayed on her feet, feeling as though Sheila had peeled away her reality layer by layer, exposing not just Liam's latest betrayal but the truth about who he had always been, someone who didn't change, someone who masked selfishness with righteous speeches and promises he couldn't keep, and the bouquet slipped from her fingers as if her hands refused to hold on to anything connected to the illusion of this wedding, landing softly on the aisle runner while Brooke steadied her trembling daughter and whispered that they could end this ceremony, that Hope didn't need to endure another heartbreak, that she didn't need to give Liam another chance to wreck her life. But Hope couldn't answer because her entire body felt cold, hollowed out, as she remembered every moment she had defended him, every time she had told herself that he had grown, that he had evolved, that his days of living between two women were behind him, but now she could see, crystal clear, that Liam hadn't changed at all, not in the ways that mattered, and what Sheila revealed wasn't a fluke or a mistake, it was a pattern, a deeply ingrained pattern of Liam pulling the strings behind the scenes, choosing what truths to hide and what lies to let breathe, and Steffi, normally composed even in crisis, looked seconds away from either lunging at Liam or collapsing entirely, her voice sharp and shaking as she shouted that Liam had robbed Finn of the chance to help his daughter, that he had robbed Steffi of the chance to understand Luna's descent, that he had let Luna spiral alone while pretending to be the moral compass of Los Angeles, and Finn's breath grew ragged as he whispered to Steffi that this changed everything. Not simply about Luna but about Liam's role in the catastrophic chain of events that could have been prevented, and the guilt pouring off Liam made it clear that he knew it too, because everything inside him unraveled at once as he stammered that he didn't mean to cause harm, that he didn't know Luna's condition would deteriorate so drastically, that he didn't believe the message was real, that he thought Luna was manipulating Finn, but Sheila cut him off with a fierce, almost maternal fury none of them expected, insisting that Liam knew exactly what he was doing, that he intercepted the message because he feared Luna's problems would drag Finn closer to Steffi again, closer to the emotional territory Liam never fully surrendered, and in that moment Steffi's eyes widened, not with fear, but with realization, because she could practically hear Liam's thought process. If Finn became involved with Luna's crisis, Finn and Steffi would have to work together, lean on each other, reconnect emotionally, and Liam, terrified of that possibility, took action to disrupt it, and the certainty of that truth made Steffi's entire body freeze, because the idea that Liam had allowed Luna's life to collapse just to maintain emotional leverage over Steffi was so monstrous she could barely process it, and she whispered, "You did this, because of me," while her voice cracked with disgust, betrayal, and unimaginable revulsion, and Liam, unable to maintain eye contact, whispered her name like a god begging for mercy, but Steffi stepped back as if he were physically toxic, her eyes burning with the kind of hatred she had never shown him before, not even during their ugliest breakups, and Hope watched this with a dawning horror, realizing that while Liam had been preparing to marry her today, a part of him was still obsessively orbiting Steffi, still calculating how to keep Finn from pulling Steffi further away, still sabotaging anything that threatened his fantasy that one day Steffi might need him again, And that realization hit Hope harder than any betrayal Sheila could have exposed, because Hope finally saw the pattern. Liam had never truly been hers, not fully, not completely. Not in the ways she had convinced herself he was, and tears finally spilled down her cheeks as she whispered, "You were still choosing her, even while promising yourself to me." And Brooke hugged her daughter tightly, glaring at Liam with a maternal rage so fierce it nearly eclipsed Steffi's, because Liam had humiliated Hope before, and yet here she was, trying to build a future with him, only to discover he had once again dragged her into his emotional labyrinth, and Deacon, who had initially tried to restrain Sheila, now stared at Liam with a mixture of disappointment and grim understanding, because Deacon knew what it was like to make terrible choices, but even he couldn't comprehend how Liam allowed an obviously unstable girl, Luna, to suffer in silence just to protect his messy emotional grip on Steffi. And Finn, shaking with grief and fury, stepped forward and demanded that Liam look at him, demanded that Liam acknowledge that this wasn't just a lie, this was negligence, cowardice. A betrayal that had cost lives, a betrayal that shattered families, and as Liam finally looked up, tears burning in his eyes, Finn said with a trembling voice that Luna might still be alive, or stable, or healthy, if Liam hadn't kept her message from reaching the one person who could have saved her. And the weight of those words broke something inside the room, broke the ceremony, broke the bonds, broke the illusion that any of them were untouched by the fallout, because suddenly the wedding arch, the flowers, the vows, the music, all felt grotesque, like decorations sitting atop a graveyard of secrets, and Sheila, still gripping the evidence, took a small step back as if preparing for the next eruption, her chest rising with the adrenaline of everything she had unleashed, but also with a grief she hadn't expected, because even Sheila, queen of chaos, architect of countless disasters, felt the heaviness in the air as Hope stared at Liam as if he were a stranger wearing her fiancé's face, and Steffi held Finn's arm as though she feared he might collapse under the weight of what Luna's final days could have been, and Ridge, normally the loudest voice in the room, stood silently with tears in his eyes, knowing the ripple effect of Liam's actions would haunt their families for years. And Brooke whispered that she never trusted Liam, never believed he could truly change, and Sheila, watching it all unfold, whispered one more truth, soft, defeated, but undeniable, saying that she had come here today expecting everyone to attack her, to blame her, to expel her from the room, but she never expected that for once, she would be the one telling the truth while Liam Spencer was the one tearing their families apart, as Sheila's final words lingered in the air. Like smoke after an explosion, the entire room existed in a state somewhere between disbelief and emotional paralysis, everyone trying to absorb the magnitude of what had just been exposed, and Hope, still trembling in Brooke's arms, forced herself to step out of her mother's hold and face Liam directly, her eyes red, her expression hollow, the devastation etched across her face so raw that even Ridge softened, because no one, no matter how complicated the families had become, wanted to see Hope Logan shattered like this on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, and she whispered Liam's name again, but this time there was no pleading, no begging for clarity, no desperate hope for a lie to soothe the wound. Instead, her whisper was a quiet acknowledgement of something she already knew she couldn't escape. Liam had once again proven incapable of holding her heart without destroying it, and Liam, broken and shaking, tried to take a step toward her, but Carter immediately moved between them, not out of aggression but out of necessity, because Hope looked so fragile, so heartbreakingly undone, that no one trusted Liam to go near her without making it worse, and Hope lifted one trembling finger and pointed at him as she asked, barely audible, "How could you let someone suffer just to keep Steffi in your orbit?" A question so brutally candid that Liam visibly recoiled, for the truth lay exposed between each word, each feeble justification he attempted to construct in his mind. Steffi, upon hearing her name invoked as the focal point of Liam's selfishness, experienced a profound, nauseating revulsion surge through her, having spent years ensnared in Liam's emotional triangle, striving for her family, contending with Hope in cycles that repeated with cruel predictability. The realization that Liam had obstructed Luna's plea for assistance to maintain a distorted emotional connection with Steffi revealed a horrifying truth. Liam was not merely indecisive or confused, he was emotionally perilous, capable of manipulating entire families to retain control over the women he loved. Finn, now trembling with grief and disgust, whispered, "You intercepted that message from my daughter who was pleading for help, and you concealed it?" His voice faltered, prompting Steffi to instinctively grasp his arm, as the anguish emanating from him was excruciating to observe. Liam, now weeping openly, stuttered that he had not anticipated such a deterioration, believed Luna was overstating the situation, and wished to prevent Finn from being ensnared in the turmoil once more. However, Steffi interjected sharply, her tone cutting through the atmosphere like shattered glass, "It was not your decision to make.